Hello, welcome to the Augmentation of Man. I am Renee Miller.
I'm Kent, I think.
Today, we're going to be talking about the transformative power of the higher self and self actualization. We connect the dots between science, spirituality, mathematics, astrology, extraterrestrial life, and predictions of what's coming so that we can have a broader understanding of our world and what is happening in a spiritual sense. These lessons are received from our mentors, the ancients, and they are mentors of the creator, teachers of the creator. So let's get started. So this is the transformative power of the higher self. But what is the higher self?
An aspect of ourself is connected to universal consciousness.
So the higher self transforms the ego and the physical limitations that we have. It goes beyond that. It's a part of the soul that guides our learning process.
It's a source of understanding, of wisdom, and intuition.
The higher self can access the stored memories and past learnings embedded in the soul.
And it's our direct connection to the creator as much as we can as human beings and can communicate with other higher beings. It furthers our understanding of ourselves and the events that surround us in this particular world.
So, what is the ego?
It's part of the physical self. It controls everything that we seem to want and do. It controls our fears, our desires.
It also controls or influences our attraction to the material world.
Yeah, it controls all that, and we don't try to control it like we should.
So the ego essentially blocks our ability to connect with a higher self through its identification with the material world and actually is interfering with our spiritual progress. So that's why a lot of these spiritual gurus will talk about how to control the ego.
It interferes with who you are truly.
It does. And so, how do we connect with the higher self and kind of push the ego aside?
So how do we connect? That's a little more difficult.
And we're going to discuss that.
Yeah. In Eastern philosophies, it's the reconnection is called self-realization, self-actualization.
So it is the recognition of the higher self.
Knowing who yourself is, mm-hmm. Being in contact with the self, mm-hmm. And it will develop over time. The recognition of the self and allowing to push the ego aside, overcome the ego and the wants, not the needs, but the wants.
And it helps us to align to our true purpose for being here, what our life purpose is, which is really hard for people to find. That's one of the biggest complaints that we have from others. So this is going to help you when you start to align with a higher self, helps you to find what that purpose
meditation is what I use. Okay. And it's a powerful tool to be used to be able to quiet the mind and push the ego aside. And it is not easily done.
No, it takes a lot of practice, really. And so a lot of the complaints that people have is that they don't have the time to engage in meditation, even though, sometimes it's just a matter of 5 or 10 minutes a day. You take some quiet time and just try to let those thoughts dissipate and clear the mind.
Many people don't want to know who they are. They're afraid of what they might find out.
There is some fear involved with that. And again, that goes back to the ego. But here's some other mindful practices that we can use when you can't meditate or in addition to meditation.
You make a decision about who you are. You're going to find out who you are, and don't let others tell you who you are.
And this includes decisions, just general decisions that you may be making in the course of your day. Do those decisions resonate with who you are as a gut feeling? Does it feel good? Does it feel true to who you are? Or does it make you feel anxious, which you would probably want to steer away from that decision?
Well, if you can.
Yes.
Steer away, but you may not be able to right away.
But if you have choices, go with the choice that feels right.
So be mindful of your physical presence within this field where you make discerning decisions. So remember that spiritual beings incarnate learning of spiritual concepts within the experiential learning field. And that's kind of hard to understand. So observe all things around you, all things within your field, and the opportunities for learning that can develop.
And then contemplate what led up to each event. We have all these events going on in our world in this experiential learning field. And it's not necessarily the event that happened, but it is where the true learning is. What happened before the event? What led up to and created the event is where you're going to find the true learning.
Yeah, we talked about this in past videos, that you don't look at the event itself, but what led up to the event if you want to know the truth about the event. So to keep judgment, guilt, blame, try to keep that away, and you'll learn the lessons more quickly.
Yes, because that is associated with the ego also, and it interferes with the learning. So it's all about the lesson here.
So the healing and transformation. When we step out of the judgment field that humans like to do, we're able to forgive others and forgiving yourself. Don't blame yourself for something that happened in childhood. Okay. You may not, probably not, or likely not, to blame yourself. So look at it more closely and don't blame the other people. Don't blame the situation around you. Just clean it, wipe it away.
Try to understand it in a neutral way.
Right? And don't let it control your life.
Mm-hmm. So when you're able to do this, when you're able to move away from the judgment, it allows our healing to happen, because then there's no guilt assigned to it. There's no judgment assigned to it. And then we can let the emotional, the mental, the spiritual self to heal. And then this allows us to progress forward.
Well, it increases our self-awareness when you are able to move all this aside and create a clarity for why you're here, what your purpose may be. Mm-hmm. Now, don't act on the purpose right away. Contemplate it, analyze it, see what value it has for your existence here. And it will bring temporary, off and on, inner peace.
Mm-hmm. So our personal experience with self-realization, and I have to say that Kent has been able to accomplish this because his soul is more evolved than my own. But through that, I've been able to experience what it's like for you when you connect to your higher self. So a lot of times when he meditates and he hears the inner voice coming through, that inner voice will say, it's my inner self or my higher self. And that higher self can dictate a lesson to us through his thoughts. It comes through as like hearing it in your mind, and it helps us to understand the situation better, or an event better, or a concept better.
Yeah, it will give us a better view of the events so we can understand what's really happening in this world around us.
And so our perception has shifted from viewing our world the way that we've been programmed to view the world, through the attachments of the ego, to viewing the events in our world through a lens of what we are trying to learn on a spiritual level.
For example,
it shifts our perception.
For example, instead of blaming this or that group for developing wars, we understand that in order for humanity to understand and want peace, we have to go through war to see the value of war to create the peace.
And it's all about vibration. So it's about learning the vibration of war. And we really at this time are coming to a completion of this. So it's culminating for that final 1-2 punch, so that it can really solidify that lesson within us, so that we will accept and want peace.
This allows the inner higher self to come forward, because you're pushing that ego aside, to be able to look at things and get transformations of the thought to the higher self and get insights.
And it diminishes our fears because the ego is being pushed aside. We may not be able to eliminate the ego, but we can help diminish it and let the higher self come through, so that we can see a bigger picture. And then the higher self can give us insights and transform our thoughts to higher level of thinking. From that, once you connect to the higher self, then you can start moving forward, connecting to higher teaching entities that can further evolve our way of thinking and understanding to a broader sense.
Once you feel the obstacles that are in your way, such as the ego, and once you understand what the fears are and what the doubts are in your mind, then this feeds society, the ego does. It keeps society at where it's at today, which is not good. So we have to decipher what we're hearing.
And so these are all about overcoming the obstacles that are presented.
That creates all the obstacles. So are we being led astray through the ego? Of course we are, but you have to learn that yourself.
And other entities can lead you astray too. So you have to develop.
That's our ego want to hear them or whatever it is, but it's the ego again.
And these negative entities use our ego to lead us astray. So that's another reason why we have to diminish the ego.
If you have a lot of resistance, it means you're not ready to do this.
Or you're too afraid.
Or you're too afraid of what you might find out.
Or you're too afraid of what others may think. Yeah. So again, that leads back to the ego.
Yeah, all things lead back to the ego, evidently. So understand where you want to go with this spiritual development, and if you really want it, and what might be holding you back. You may not like what's holding you back, but you have to face it with truth.
And you might want to try journaling your thoughts and your feelings and why you might feel that way, why you might think that way, to help you to understand what is creating the resistance and what is holding you back. Also, another good technique is to analyze your dreams. So getting a good dream dictionary that's focused on your spiritual evolution will help you to understand what's going on inside of you.
Yeah, you can join a community support um, for the practices that you've learned and understand. Um, some of them, Renee put down the Unity Church. Some Unity churches support it, some don't. So connect with those that feel that they support the learning of the higher self, not with ones that do other things other than connecting with the higher self. There's a lot of those out there.
There's a lot that, even though they focus on the fact that they're under the umbrella of spiritual growth, they are still focused too much on the ego. So where they are progressing and how far they're getting, you want to stay away from that, because this is a long, lifelong journey, and we make small steps toward that goal, but we're not going to make these huge jumps. But over the course of time, when we look back, we can see how we have truly progressed. So helping or using a spiritual community, even if it's online, can help you stay on your path and help you expand your understanding. But use decipherment.
Start integrating new understandings of how you view yourself and the world around you.
So in relation to living in alignment with this path.
Instead of being reactive to the events, ask yourself, what am I supposed to learn from this event? Again, going back, not the event itself, but what led to the event.
Mhm.
Be less judgmental of who you are, of yourself, and of others. Less judgmental, especially don't blame others
Mhm.
for the situation you're caught in.
Including the government,
Right.
because it's all something to learn.
So remember, all is a lesson. Everything that happens around humanity is a lesson. So what am I supposed to learn from this?
Be conscious of being influenced by material acquisitions also. Ask yourself, do I really need this, or do I just want it? And that will give you the clue as to whether or not it's the ego involved in your decision making as far as what you're going to
When you
purchase.
do that, you can see if you're authentic to what you really need, not what you want.
Mhm. And be compassionate toward others and of service to others without interfering with their own learning process. And for us, this has been a lesson we've had to learn, where you don't just immediately jump in and start throwing money at a situation or trying to bail someone out. You have to step aside and think about, is this a lesson that they are pushing themselves through? And if I am bailing them out, am I interfering with that lesson? So that is kind of a tight line you have to walk when you decide you want to help someone. Realize that it may not be helping them.
It's a process. It takes whatever life you have left in you as a human being. But the thing is to start now, get on the right track now, and it'll take the rest of your life to even get to the beginning of the fulfillment, or the fulfillment, depends on how long you have to use in this getting these steps, because it comes in little bitty pieces, and you'll be looking back at different things as you learn.
And you'll realize how far you've really come.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it along the way.
So stay committed. Stay committed to the challenge. You'll get off track, and different things will happen, and you'll go, oh, where was I?
You drift, you
drift,
don't
yeah.
realize you're drifting until you go all of a
Yeah.
sudden, wow,
So-
I just feel so disconnected. So what do?
You know, it's easier to have a partner.
Mhm.
You can remind each other about the path you were on or are on.
And it's also important to, once you realize that you've drifted from your path, just reset, get right back on, start your meditation, start your mindful practices, and just
Yeah,
reconnect.
and look for organizations that go along with what your progress is. Don't go to a higher organization and you're at the lower level and expect to understand them. Start where you are.
What resonates with you, what you're
Right.
able to understand.
Right.
Huh?
You can only develop your learning and passing on what you're learning once you understand it. If you don't understand it, you can't pass it on.
Mm-hmm. Or if you don't understand it, even worse, you are misinterpreting the information, and then you are passing on misinformation,
Yeah.
which is not good, because that's where we're at today. So in essence, we're here to help people to understand through the lessons that we received from our mentors, mostly the ancients, but there's also spiritual professors. Just like you go to school, you can go to a university, a spiritual university, and it's all within. And so one of the ways that it can help you to stay on your path is not only watching videos like this online, but go back to all of our previous videos. Some of them are years old, but they are still pertinent today. We can be found on YouTube, BitChute, Brighteon, Rumble, and on Spotify. And so all of these videos connect the dots between the science, our spiritual path, the astrology. Even though we're not astrologers, we do receive lessons on astrology, and we try to understand it ourselves and pass it on. Extraterrestrial life and events going on in our world, including predictions. Through the predictions, the object is to get you to understand why something is going to happen, to prepare for it so you can ride it out, to lessen the fear because you understand
It doesn't
it.
mean you can change it, but you can understand it and ride through it and come
Yes.
out fine on the other side. So,
Instead of not being prepared and then reacting because of fear.
yeah, the ego gets you just to react quickly.
Right.
Now, get a friend, a partner or a friend that thinks the same as you. Find there's a lot of people out there, and you can find a friend that reacts with you and how you're going to go on this journey together and not by yourself.
And I can say, just watching other couples or other people, when you have a partner who is on the journey with you, your leap forward is exponentially faster than if you have a partner who is completely against this way of thinking. So,
because discussing it helps you to understand it and gain wisdom in that particular event that you're discussing.
Mm-hmm. So we hope that we have shed light on why it's important to have the higher self start to be integrated into your life, pushing away the ego, and maybe in time it will help your life to be transformed in a very positive way. Thank you for joining us. And as always, peace be with you on your journey to enlightenment.
Don't forget that we have put out 2 books, the Augmentation of Man series. And if they are available through Amazon.
So thank you for joining us. Please do subscribe and also see our past videos because they are chock full of a lot of good information. Thank you. Have a good day.